Aleichem. Welcome back to Breslov web seminar for the Parshat of the week. This week is Shabbos Tazria, and it's Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and it's Shabbos HaChodesh. It's a lot of things, and it also tells us we're getting very close to Pesach, and there's a lot of work to be done. Right? Ask any wife or any housewife who's taking care of the cleaning in the house, they'll tell you there's a lot of work to be done for Pesach. But we'll discuss Pesach a different time. Right now, let's talk about Shabbos Tazria. Many of us will be traveling to Uman. It's Rabbi Nachman's birthday. Rabbi Nachman was born on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and a lot of people travel to Uman to be with Rabbi Nachman. Do not ask me why. It's not brought any tradition from Reb Nosson. I think personally the reason that there's a lot of hype about traveling Rosh Chodesh Nisan is that the travel agents had a good idea how to make money. But that's a personal view. But there's a lot to be said about it. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is also Rosh Hashanah Limlochem. The Gemara says it's also a Rosh Hashanah. There's a lot of reasons for us to go to Uman. One of them is Rabbi Nachman's famous statement, Ani nohar al-mataher mikol haksomim. I am a river that can purify from all blemishes, right? And it has a lot to do with Parshat Tazria. Tazria starts off talking about the Mitzvah of Milah and the days of purity after a woman gives birth. But then the vast majority of the Parsha, 67 psukim, 59 of them have to do with the laws of a tzaras. Tzaras is generally translated as leprosy, although I don't think so. I don't think it's actual leprosy that is what it means. There are different other kinds of diseases. It's called a nega tzaras, an affliction of tzaras, and it's a terrible kind of an affliction. The laws of tzaras means that the person who is afflicted, God forbid, he has to stay alone, not allowed to be with his home. He has to suffer the humility of the humiliation of being impure. He has certain impurities about him and whatnot. It's a very rough thing. There's a tractate in Mishnah called Negoim, which speaks about tzaras, and starts off Abba Mine Negoim. There are 4 types of Negoim. Each one represents a white color. It's an affliction of the skin, of the hair, usually of the skin, but there's a lot of parts to it, and these afflictions, they can come from burns, they can come from other things, and these afflictions are all white. The skin turns, and a certain patch of skin turns white. That's an affliction of leprosy. And there are 4 types. Each one is different, each one whiter than the other. Now, for our purposes, to understand Rabbi Nachman's teachings, right, we have to understand there's four types of afflictions, negoim. There are 4 types of damages. The Gemara Bava Kama starts off, there are 4 types of damages. There are 4 types of property or domains for Shabbos. There are a lot of things are 4. There are 4 exiles. A lot of things are in groups of 4. And one of the main reasons for the groups of four is that everything emanates from the four-letter name of Hashem, Yud, K, Vav, K. Everything emanates from there. At its source, the good things, like Shabbos, so that seems pure. Well, what about the damages? What about the afflictions? Right? There are four types of shavuos. The Gemara starts off, oaths and whatnot. Whatever it is, everything originates in Hashem's name. But unfortunately for us, we live in a physical world. It's not all spiritual. And there are a lot of things that could divert us from the real goal and recognizing Hashem at its root. Rather, we fall and succumb to a damager, to something that happens in our lives that damages us, sets us off. The four damages, the Talmud says, are a shor, an ox that gores, or it means any animal really, even a dog that bites or whatnot. A bar, a pit that a person could fall into. A maveh, someone who, an ox or an animal that eats somebody else's. You ever hear it, a cat that disrupted the flower bed of your neighbor next door and whatnot. That's a maveh. And of course fire, which could damage and destroy so many things. Those are the damages. There are a lot of different things. All these things, what do they have to do with me? Well, they were all created at the time of creation. Right? The Gemara says, the Zohar says, Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created. The first letters, Bereshis is a Beis, bara is a Beis, Elokim is Aleph. And that's Bava, standing for the three tractates in Talmud, Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, that deal with the laws of damages and laws of buying and selling and all civil law and whatnot. But that's where it all originates from. It comes from Hashem's name. It all comes from Hashem. But it was put into potential in this world. And it's up to the person to avoid it. How could we avoid it? Well, we turn to the first lesson of Likutey Moharan. Rabbi Nachman starts off that a person has to look into the seichel of everything, look into the intellect behind every single thing that there is, and understand how he could draw close to Hashem from that item. Because everything that's in the world, as Rabbi Nachman cites in Rabbi Nachman's Wisdom number 300, everything that's in the world is there for our free choice. And therefore, everything that I find, that I come across in life, I can use for my benefit. I can use for it to come close to Hashem. Unfortunately, it might be that I could go away from Hashem. I could be misled. I could fall into the pit, right? I make a mistake. I fell into the pit. Right? Now, how do I extricate myself from it? Right? There are damages out there. An ox, you're not going to start up with a 2-ton ox, who's got horns and whatnot. You're not going to do it, but he may come chasing after you, right? There's mafia. There are guys who run businesses, right? The mafia offers them protection, and woe to you if you don't take the protection, and woe to you if you take the protection. One, it costs you a fortune of money. You become a slave to them. And the other side, if you don't take it, they're going to damage you. Right? And you have the same thing with fire, whether it's actual fire that burns down a house, or it's smoking cigarettes, or it's any other thing that has to do with fire. So there's plenty of ways how, and of course the shame, the eating part of it, how many of us eat ourselves to death with the wrong foods and whatnot. So we have to learn to avoid it. These are the four negoyim. These are the four afflictions, four different types of afflictions that afflict us. We have to look for the good. We have to find Hashem. Rabbi Nachman teaches there that in every single thing there is a wisdom. There is something intellectual about anything that you're going to come across, right? But you can't really get to the true intellect of it unless you're going to believe that God is behind it. If you believe that God is behind everything, everything emanates from Him, from His name and whatnot, then you could believe that there is an intellect to how to find Hashem, even with a mundane item, right? It's possible. A smartphone, right? I'm in the middle of the street, something happens, I lost something, what do I do about the mitzvah? I found something. There's a mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda. I have to return something that's a lost object. I don't know what to do with it. So I take out my smartphone and I call the rabbi and I ask him what the law is, and he tells me. If I didn't have the smartphone, how can I do that? I'd have to stand there on the street and worry about the lost object. What am I supposed to do or not? And there's plenty of different types of examples we can use for this. What happens, though, is if we have belief and that there is intellect behind everything, I believe in Hashem. I believe that Hashem is with me, Hashem is there, and Hashem guides everything, and Hashem caused this item to be created and whatnot. And I come to understand, I look for Hashem, that's great. But what if I mislead myself? Right? In that first lesson, Rabbi Nachman speaks about a white angel. A white angel, like an affliction, tzaras, is white, but it's a damaging angel, malach mazaku. It's an angel that can cause a lot of damage, right? It could mislead people. For example, Esav. Esav misled his father, Yitzchak. Esav came to his father and said to him, how do we tithe straw? The law is straw is exempt from tithes, from taking off misa. But Esav asked his father, how do we take off tithes from straw? How do we take off tithes from salt, which is exempt from tithes? Right? It's a misleading angel. And what Rabbi Nachman says is that the Yetzer Hara always dresses himself up in mitzvahs. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to do this. Yeah, it's a mitzvah to put on tzitzis every day. It's a mitzvah to put on tefillin every day. It's not a mitzvah to put on tefillin on Shabbos. It's wrong. But the Yetzer Hara can come up with a reason. You're going to wear tzitzis. You're going to wear tefillin. Do it the wrong way. No, you have to be careful. Let's take it to a higher level, right? It's a mitzvah to bash the other guy. Machlokes, strife, right? It's a great mitzvah. I got to destroy that person. Look what he did, right? Who says you have to destroy the person? You have to take care of what's happening. Where's the mitzvah to destroy somebody else, right? Is it like akin to murder or whatnot? You have to be careful. You have to know, right? But it's a mitzvah. Right? You can't let something like this take place. You can't let that happen. So people dress themselves up with mitzvahs. People dress themselves up with good ideas and good intentions, whereas the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? People can come up with an idea, is this right or not? It's white, it's an affliction, but we don't see it that way. It's a damager. We don't see it that way. We have this tendency to look at something that looks white and think of it as being pure, but it's not always so. And Rabbi Nachman cautions us that Tazria, you want to avoid the afflictions, then you have to learn to avoid, right, something that's misleading. It could be a pit, it could be an ox, it could be anything, right? It's a mitzvah. Those are the biggest things that you have to watch out for, because it's a mitzvah to mislead yourself. No, it's not. Not at all. Not under any circumstances. And we have to learn to be careful with this. This is in the first lesson of Likutey Moharan, Rabbi Nachman's major work. And it's something for all of us to learn from, that we have to be able to take ourselves and guide ourselves and guard ourselves so that we're able to overcome all the things that look good but they're not really that good for us. And if we do that, then the laws of Mitzvot, the laws of an affliction, of a tzaras, will not apply to us. We will not have to go suffer and endure the suffering and humiliation that comes with this type of affliction or leprosy or whatever it is you want to call it. We should all have a good Shabbos. The month of Nisan is coming. Nisan means the month of salvation, the month when the Jews became a nation, the month of the Pesach Seder. It's a time of salvation. Hashem should help that we should be saved from all the afflictions and all the suffering that's found in this world. Amen.